lovely audience. Welcome to Kansas City, and welcome to the ABA General Practice Solo and Small Firm 2023 Fall Conference. Glad to be here for this first part of our Solo and Small Firm Academy. I want to thank, we're doing this in collaboration, of course, with the University of Missouri, Kansas City, Missouri Law School, and we're happy to have their cooperation. And today we're going to hear from Dean Barbara Glesner Fines, and also like to thank Daniel McCarroll for all of his work that he's done. We're about the third largest division of the American Bar Association, the largest professional association in the world, I believe. And our slogan is, "Your success is our mission." And what we try to do is we try to ensure for the American attorney that we work to improve the administration of justice and make sure that the nation's solo small firm attorneys are more successful, more efficient, and indeed more profitable. And so we want to thank you all for being here. And we're also zooming this out across the nation. So I want to thank you all. This is the Solo and Small Firm Academy. This is part of our long-range planning all year and for the next 2 to 3 years. We are going to work to bridge the gap to ensure that bridge that gap from the law school theory you have to actually setting up and being successful in a law practice. And throughout the year, we're going to be giving tools. We're going to have a big focus on our website. We're going to take highlights from this, and we're going to put it on our website, and we're going to be the go-to place in the nation for America's solo and small firm practitioners. I'm going to ask Joan Schwartz, the amazing Joan Schwartz, to introduce our first panel. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, Henry, and welcome everyone to Kansas City. If we could have Dean Emeritus Barbara Glesner Fines and Dr. Adrienne B. Haynes come on down. They want to introduce themselves, but I want to let you all know that this was the Dean's brainchild that we start with in our Solo Small Firm Academy, this exact program, the entrepreneurial mindset. Do you have the attitude to succeed as a solo small firm practitioner? I wish someone would have invited me to this program 23 years ago when I started my own law firm. I had to go find resources. What we're hoping here is to put them together in a nice bundle for future folks and for folks who are interested in a small firm or solo life as lawyers. And without further ado, because these ladies want to introduce themselves, I give you Dean Emeritus Barbara Glesner Fines and Dr. Adrienne B. Haynes.
Thank you so very much. Can you all hear me okay? I have a teacher voice, so it's not usually a problem. We're so pleased to be with you here today for this program. I look forward to learning from my esteemed colleague and friend and from you all. I'm Barb Glesner Fines. I've been on the faculty here at UMKC since 1986, and I've taught a lot of different subjects, but my primary expertise is in professional responsibility. One of the courses that I've taught for almost 2 decades now is a summer course that we offer in entrepreneurial lawyering, solo and small firm practice. And the course is offered to our law students as a tool for them to plan for solo or small firm practice. The final exam, so to speak, is a business plan. And we work with the local community of solo and small firm attorneys here in Missouri. It's an amazing community. 70% of the attorneys in private practice in Missouri are in solo and small firms. And they are so generous in sharing their expertise and mentoring our students. So it's really delightful to see the APA GPSolo putting together these materials. You can expect that they're going to be turned around, and I'm going to be cribbing from them for my class. And I have a little experience in running a law business because for the last 14 years, I've been in administration of the law school. The past 6 years as the dean of the law school. And so I've just stepped down. We have a new dean, Lumen Mulligan. And so now I'm just returning to my first love of teaching. And speaking of first loves, I am so pleased to have with me one of my former students and now dear colleague and friend, Adrienne.
I could listen to her talk all day. I'm telling you, Dean Glesner Fines is one of my favorites. My name is Dr. Adrienne B. Haynes. I am a proud 2013 graduate of UMKC School of Law with an emphasis in entrepreneurial law. So talking about and engaging in the practice of entrepreneurship is one of my favorite things to do. And so I'm looking forward to sharing what I've learned now in 8 years as a solo and small firm practitioner. And I was counting this morning, now 18 years in entrepreneurship, which means half my life has been spent and dedicated to this work. So I'm looking forward to sharing. And actually, I'd be remiss if I just didn't thank the law school, Dean Sunni, who was my dean, Dean Glesner Fines, who was also there, and Dean Mulligan for the work that they do and for their commitment to keeping this conversation going. I graduated in 2013, 10 years ago. I'm still incredibly active in the law school, and I wouldn't be able to do this work without this relationship. So if you're in law school, I encourage you to make connections with your professors who might be teaching your e-ship classes, because it's been invaluable. And we can talk more about that after.
So today we have been asked to talk about entrepreneurial mindset.
That's right.
Do you have the attitude to succeed as a solo and small firm practitioner? And so PowerPoints are, of course,
Yes.
PowerPoint. Here is our PowerPoint.
Great.
We have 6 characteristics that we want to talk to. And Adrienne, you'll have to forgive me. I love alliteration. So I boiled them down to 6 C's
I saw that.
of entrepreneurship and solo and small firm practice. And so let's dive in to each one of these. First, an entrepreneur is committed. You need a deep perseverance to succeed as an entrepreneur. Tell us about your experience with that.
Sure. So when I think about commitment to entrepreneurship, first, I have to admit that when I was a law student at UMKC, I've always been splitting my time between entrepreneurship and the law. I came to law school as a practicing entrepreneur and knew I didn't want to take a break from entrepreneurship to be an attorney. So I was painting houses with the street lights on when I was a UMKC law student, using ladders that were donated by my law school professors. I mean, this has been an effort of love, a community, if you will. And so what I knew in law school was that running a painting company and finding houses to paint was very difficult. It was like a full-time job for both. And so I thought I was not going to run a law firm. I was afraid of the commitment that it would require to build a true business and also be a good attorney. I recognized that those were 2 different things. And so for me, when I think about commitment, an entrepreneur is crazy enough to believe that they can do it, but I come to it really humbly, recognizing that it was going to take a lot of work. And it's funny because since graduating and since running my own firm, often law students and even professionals will be like, oh, I could just start a practice. That'd be the easiest thing I could do. I'm like, oh, okay, call me after you start, because it's one of the hardest things you could do. I mean, not only are you learning about yourself, this is about entrepreneurial mindset. It's not about the forms and the processes. It's about what it takes to be able to actually do the work. So I think a deep commitment is crucial, because that backs up the deep perseverance that it's going to take to actually do the work. It's good when the phone's ringing, but what are you doing and how are you feeling? What's your mindset if the phone's not ringing? If things aren't going like an automatic, business might? Your firm will teach you a lot of lessons. And so that is my my note on commitment and deep perseverance, that you should approach it humbly. And can I just ask who in here has their own firm? Because I don't want to talk to people who, oh yeah, y'all know. And I would love to hear from you all after about how you came to the decision to start. But for me, I had to learn from other people who had run their own practice about their deep commitment to the work and their feeling that they really were the person to actually bring that into what the community needed. And I'll just share a quick story too about perseverance. So when I think about commitment, the people at the bank, right? They know all your business. They know when it's good. They know when it's looking a little bit lean. And so about 7 months ago, I had talked to one of my bankers. I went to the bank to do a transaction and I knew that what she could see. And I said, I keep doing this because I'm so committed to the work. So even when the account looks like it does, I'm still committed to it. I still believe that this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And I'll tell you, in entrepreneurship, and we can get into this, but life comes at you fast and it can change quickly. So that was about 7 months ago. And since that conversation, we're having very different conversations at the bank because of the commitment to entrepreneurship and now a new project that we're able to work on. And so thinking about entrepreneurial mindset today was really interesting for me because it's about commitment, even when it's up and even when it's down. And part of that is emotional intelligence, which we can get into in a bit.
Yeah, and I think one of the most important things that I hear in your discussion of this is not seeing the downs as something that is like, this is the end, like I'm failing. It's part of the process of having a solo or a small firm. There are going to be good days. There are going to be bad days. And, in education, we talk a lot about growth mindset. But entrepreneurs, if there's anybody that's got to have a growth mindset, that's got to be able to say, failure is part of the process. And failure is an opportunity to learn, and failure is an opportunity to grow. Well, that's got to be that mindset has got to be part of the solo or small firm attorneys' perspective on their work. And entrepreneurs will tell you, if you're not failing, you're probably not stretching far enough, right? And so it's not to avoid failure. It's to fail forward. It's to grow from that. It's to learn from that. And in order to do that, you do have to have a real deep perseverance because hard times are hard and it's hard to stick to it. But having that commitment that, yes, I know there are going to be ups and downs. I'm going to keep growing. I'm going to keep going. That is a critical mindset for attorneys. Our next one, centered.
Centered. So from centered, I think about the importance of vision. Is that your name? You got vision? Okay. I think you have to really be, as I mentioned before, you got to be a little bit crazy and you have to be convinced that like you're the one to do it. Because there's other firms in Kansas City that practice business law. I talked to some of them. I interviewed at some of them, but I still felt like what I loved about UMKC was that they had entrepreneurial law. It wasn't just like business law. It was this real niche focus on partnering with entrepreneurs for the practice of law. And so I didn't see that in the industry. I saw that, there'd be a big firm or two that have one person that had like entrepreneurial law on the website. But when you talk to them, they really weren't talking to entrepreneurs and weren't interested in even, being that partner, what it takes. And so I thought, okay, I'll take one for the team. I'm going to do this. I went to law school to help other entrepreneurs really think about how to use the law as a part of their strategy. And I will tell you, I got paid a great compliment this week. One of my colleagues that I know very well, I told him this big audacious plan I have, and he said, "Oh my God, I say this in the best way. You're crazy." And I'm like, awesome. I've known him for 2 years. And if this is the first time he thought I was crazy, like, why am I not sharing bigger ideas? And so, I think that vision really, like for me, my vision is how am I contributing to sustainable business and transferable wealth? I'm fortunate to be able to do that through the law firm. And I'm also always seeking other ways to do that. But that really clear commitment, which wasn't, such a cute phrase when I was in law school, was still the exploration of that. But that's what sustains you. I had a friend tell me the other day, he runs his own practice. And he told me, I said, "Hey, how are things going?" And he's like, "It's good. I owe $500,000 in back taxes, but I'm doing okay." And I mean, we laugh, but if you run your own practice, like, that's a scary position to be in. That's scary because it's about the business side of the practice, and it means, and it's worth the attention. And so I say it, and it's, when he said it, he kind of laughed, but I didn't. Cause I mean, I have like a, my little tax debt is not that. And it can keep you up at nights, but I think that vision to, this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. The work will catch up, the money will catch up. And I'll tell you, it does. But it takes that tenacity and that vision.
Yeah, I'm a real big believer in mission, in really knowing, and mission has got to be grounded. It's got to be centered. It's got to be grounded in who you are and in knowing yourself. When we have our law students come in the first week of orientation, our professional and career development center, see folks here from there, work with the students to do a Clifton Strengths Finder tool. And I love the conversation. The tool is just a tool. There are lots of tools that you can use for self-understanding. This happens to be the one that we use. But the tool is of little value if you don't use it. But what we do is we have the students really talk about it. What are your strengths? And how can you leverage those strengths? So often when we spend time thinking about ourselves, and after all, it's the service industry, so we're the product, right? So we got to know our product, and we got to know our value. And to know our value, we have to know what our strengths are. And sometimes folks don't see that time of reflection, that time of self-understanding as an important investment of time. But it's critical. It's absolutely critical. So we start first week with our law students. And one of the fascinating things about the discussion that they all have about this is that they soon recognize that they each have unique strengths. And, law school can be such a competitive environment where you can feel like, I can't get to know Adrienne too well because, I'm not going to share my secret success sauce with her. Well, my success sauce is different than her success sauce. And she has unique strengths and I have unique strengths. And so we're not really competing with each other. Right. She's going to be that entrepreneurial law person, and I'm going to be this academic law person over here. And so we got different paths and we can share our strengths and grow together. And I think that is part of being centered, is knowing your own value. And I think sometimes we don't want to give the time to really recognizing in an honest, really thoughtful way, what is my value? Because if you know your value, then your mission can grow from that. You know what you have to offer. And then the other part of being centered is not just your value, but your values, is knowing what's really important to you and why you're doing this. And so when I hear Adrienne talking about, okay, I'm going to take one for the team. I'm going to help entrepreneurs because other people aren't doing it. She understands her strengths. She knows her experience, but that's not what's driving that mission. I know that's not what's driving that mission because Adrienne has lots of strengths. What's driving that mission is her values and the importance of entrepreneurship to a community. Kansas City entrepreneurship we have 5 big projects for Kansas City, and being the most entrepreneurial city on the planet is one of them. And that's a value that Adrienne cares about, that UMKC Law cares about. So knowing your value and knowing your values, that's being centered. And if you're not centered, you cannot be successful as a solo or small firm practitioner. But that takes time and reflection, and it sounds kind of like woo, kind of sometimes, but it's rock solid important. I think one of the things that we learned from knowing about different strengths is that we also learn that we can't go it alone. Law school a lot of time engenders this view that, I am a lone wolf here. I got to go my own way, and I got to be an independent contractor, and I can't collaborate. And sometimes academics even have another word for collaboration. Sometimes we call it cheating. Well, in the practice of law, it's not cheating to collaborate, right? It is critical. A collaborative mindset is absolutely essential. And Adrienne, I think that you are, so we bring Adrienne back very often to teach our students about networking. So tell us how you have developed a collaborative mindset and how that plays out for you.
Well, a big part of knowing yourselves is knowing that the more you know, the more you don't know. And I'm faced with that every day, that like, while I know a lot of things and I have strengths, there's also blind spots. But I think the best way to cover those is through partnership and through collaboration. And I always say to my team and to my partners, many hands makes light work. When we talk about the Big Five initiative to be the most entrepreneurial city in the country, I always say most entrepreneurial and inclusive, because that's really what we need to be. But no one can do that alone. And as an entrepreneur, Bradfeld startup communities, I can't remember when it came out, but it was like the manifesto for startup communities for a really long time. And it was important to my career as well. And it talks about making a 20-year commitment to your community every day. And so for me, if I'm going to be here in Kansas City, I've been here now 13 years. If I'm going to be here, I knew that I was not only going to come here for law school, but, you know, I might have a family here, I might have businesses here, and I might have dinner with the people that I was going to class with. Like, these might be my friends. And so community was important to me from the beginning, because it was going to take all of us in order to do this big kind of big audacious goal that I had. But I also learned the most by giving back. When I'm able to volunteer, I came to Kansas City for the Entrepreneurial Legal Services Clinic, which allows entrepreneurs to get free legal support while, you know, from law students. That's why I came to UMKC. And so partnership is, I think, rooted in that. I learned so much from my partners. And I mean, when Seed Law first started, we have a small business office here in Kansas City called KC BizCare. And I used to just host these community office hours because I'm an entrepreneur. I was running an incubator while I was trying to pass the bar. And so I knew that, like, in entrepreneurship, I wasn't seeing lawyers hanging around, which still was baffling me. And so I said, okay, we're going to hang out in co-working spaces across the community every Wednesday, 3 to 5. We were booked back to back. KC BizCare, if anybody had a legal question, they said, go to the office hours. Now, I will tell you, I did not make a lot of money off of those referrals, but what I did learn was, like, what are entrepreneurs going through in a day-to-day? What's that issue spotting that I need to be able to do to be not only a great attorney, but a good legal partner? And so my note said, definitely do it for free. Volunteer, each one teach one. And when you have that kind of 20-year commitment to your community for real, then it's an easy thing to do. And you have to, it's integral to the work. So.
And I think so often when we think about collaboration, we think about, you know, professional collaboration. Of course, every solo attorney has got to have backup, right? You got to have workload coverage. You got to have a disaster plan. It's unethical not to have a backup plan and a disaster plan in place. That's absolutely critical. And so we think about that. And then we think about business development. So we think, well, I'm going to join this organization, or I'm going to speak at this event, or I'm going to be in this community because I'll get referrals, but that's not the limit of collaboration. And it's not really even the heart of collaboration. First, collaborating with our clients, you know, really understanding that we have to enter into representing clients in our world as the experts. We're the experts on the law, but they're the experts on their life and their business. And so we have to have a deep respect for our clients. And if we don't, then we probably got to find some different clients. That's true. And if you have that deep respect, that collaborative sense with your clients, then you're going to see the needs in the community. You're naturally going to be drawn to give back. And so when we talk about collaborative, we're really talking about very, very broadly that kind of deep commitment to a community, and understanding that true collaboration is a give and a take. It's not just a take.
It's true.
And I think sometimes law students in particular, they come in and I got to learn how to network. And they see it as, I got to find people who will give me, right? Give me mentoring, give me a job, give me well, you have something to give too. What are you going to give back? A truly collaborative relationship is a give and take. So next one. Curious. I'm curious, Adrienne, about curiosity. Tell me about your curiosity.
So for me, curiosity is important, I think, to the mindset because it keeps you from getting too stagnant. I do business law. I still love an operating agreement. I'm still like, ooh, how can we do this differently? How can we make sure it really suits the needs of the client instead of being like, oh, another operating agreement. I'm so grateful for those. Those are bread and butter. So, but just like being intrigued by the work, I think is really important. I'm always trying to figure out, I love the practice of law. I also love entrepreneurship. So on the business side, I'm always trying to think about how do I make the business better? How do I understand issues more analytically? And how do I better serve our clients more closely? One of the new initiatives that we're rolling out is actually called General Counsel Concierge, where it's a 24-hour phone line. People can call anytime because there are nights where I'm on my phone on my computer 1 a.m. and I'm like, And you know what? QuickBooks has a 24-hour line and I use it. And I thought, somebody might like that for us. So I think curiosity, just always thinking about how can I do this better is fun for me. And burnout and stress happens. Let me tell you, this is hard. When I say it, I really mean that. And you all who run a practice, but if you allow yourself to be, to lean into curiosity, I think it can cure a little bit of burnout. If you don't like your clients right now, or you don't like your practice area, try something different, learn something new, because there's joy in learning. Yeah. And if you are tired of learning, then maybe you need a spa day or some way to do some self-care, because that's real too. I had a meeting with Dean Glesner Fines earlier this year, and I said, man, last summer I was burnt out. I loved my clients. I loved the work, but I wasn't feeling super inspired by it at the time. And I think you just have to continue to lean into the work. We started doing things a little bit different, looking at different practice areas, and it's reinvigorated us and the team. And so, curiosity, I think, is important. And I'll also just add to my notes before, emotional intelligence. If you're not curious and you feel burnt out, maybe you might be burnt out, and you really need to look at that instead of, just saying, oh, I hate practicing law. I don't even like this anymore. Because you will hear that. You'll hear people who say that they don't like their clients, and the work is hard. If it was easy, everyone would be an attorney. But it's difficult, but it's worth the work. And I think that emotional intelligence helps us from getting too low and feeling like if you've won the last 5 cases, you're the best thing since sliced bread and you can never lose, because that's dangerous too. We have to be in the middle, take things as they go. And I think, I can't remember the quote, but it's just about meeting failure and triumph with the same energy, because that's going to be a part of the journey. I could go on and on about that, but building a business is not going to be perfect. And if it feels perfect, then you're not, as Dean Glesner Fine said before, you might not be stretching yourself enough. Yeah.
Yeah, and of course, curiosity, I could go on and on about curiosity because I'm a law professor, and curiosity is the lifeblood of my career and my passion. And so I know how important it is, but when I look at all the attorneys that I work with, the very best attorneys that I know are also some of the most curious, open, and not just like continuing to learn about operating agreements. Ew, sorry.
So what?
That's not where I should be. But wanting to learn about law, yes, and actually being enthusiastic about learning about law, but about anything, about their clients, about the world around them. Some of the very best attorneys that I know have some of the most fascinating hobbies. And sometimes those hobbies actually do lead to then a really successful practice, because they find a way to make their passion their practice. But if they didn't give themselves the space to let their curiosity grow, let themselves say, I'm going to go a little deeper here. And we can get caught up chasing the bottom line. And it's hard to take out the time for these kinds of things like reflection, like learning, like curiosity, just because it's fascinating. I'm going to take the time to learn this. And yet the payback in mental health, but also in business. Because what do we have to give our clients but our brain? And if our brain isn't continuing to develop, you know, we're not sharpening our axe. We're not going to be able to be as strong as what we do. I see another one of our alums here, Annette Shoti, who I know that you'll be having an opportunity to hear from. She's, to me, the perfect example of this kind of way in which curiosity can transform a career. So Annette, I'm going to tell your story just a little bit, if you don't mind. So Annette practiced ERISA law, another one of those. No, thank you, for many, many, many years. But along the way was very curious, and she grew to really learn and develop and grow a deep understanding of digital marketing. It's her business now. She is an entrepreneur. And so she helps lawyers understand digital marketing. And that's where curiosity can take you, to a really wonderfully passionate place that can transform your career, but you have to be open to it. Right? You have to be open to it.
I want to just add one thing, is just to build it into the culture of your firm. If you have a firm already, one of the things that we're doing is now 5% of everyone's time, so 2 hours a week, has to be spent on professional development. So I don't care what it is, but 2 hours a week, feel free to like delve into the book, watch the CLE, or just do whatever else that might help you feel more passionate to build your education. And that has been really fun for our team to just like hear what makes them curious, hear what they're learning about, and like really, you know, it's sparking interest for other people. It's also fun because like there's a goal I've been working on professionally that I said, okay, team, I'm going to use my 2 hours to like work towards this goal. And now I've said it out loud, and you see, I don't want to say it here, but now my team is going to keep me accountable for that. And I get to use my 2 hours a week, because I'm using my hours too towards developing this additional skill set, which is good for my curiosity, but will also help the business too. So yeah, build it in if you have the opportunity to.
Yeah, you know, one of the things I think about a lot when I think about solo and small firm practice, and you all know this, is that, you know, in any other area of practice, you can just, first of all, you can just practice law, right? You don't have to run a business. That's true. But there's so many different kinds of skill sets you need to be a professional, to be a successful solo or small firm attorney. You can't be like this really super narrow specialist. And God love them, the world needs them, but the world also needs people who can make connections and can have a lot of ambidextrous kind of nature in their skill sets. And that's the general practice solo and small firm world. But we shouldn't underestimate just how big a challenge that is, because, you know, to a certain extent, being a specialist is a little bit easier road. I'm currently teaching torts. I've been teaching for 40 years now. I've never taught torts before. In 40 years, I've taught 33 subjects. I am not a specialist. I mean, I am in professional responsibility, but I also have taught all these other subjects, and it's hard. I was just saying to one of my colleagues this morning, I'm going to teach another new course next semester, another new course prep. And then I thought, oh, stop that. You love new course prep. You love to, you know, stop that. And so if you don't feel that way about, no, today I've got a business problem I need to solve. Today I have a management problem. Today I have a marketing problem. Oh, today I have a law problem, right? If you're not comfortable with that whole vast array of skill sets that you have to be able to develop, then you ought not be a solo or small firm attorney. It's a mindset that you've got to have, and it's grounded in curiosity.
I'll add too, if you like it, but you don't want to run a business, go work for a solo and small firm. Go work for a small attorney. We all need number twos, people who can run the business, but don't want to carry the liability of it, or don't like the business side, but really want to help manage. There's a lot of ways, I think, to support small and medium-sized firms. And small firm doesn't mean that they don't have work, that they don't have processes. Those could be very successful, but just just a few attorneys. So I encourage you to, if you've decided you don't love it anymore, go support someone that does. But I just also appreciate what you mentioned. Like, sometimes I do feel like that about operating agreements, like, oh my God, another one. But I think that kind of attitude shift that says, wait a minute, I love these. That kind of reset and that reminder, the entrepreneurial mindset will require that. And that's back to emotional intelligence. Don't get too low, don't get too high. And if you allow yourself to kind of stay in the middle, I found that's most mentally healthy for me.
All right, let's talk about my favorite lesson, creativity. I just love the creativity, and it's not something, I've got these first year students right now and in torts, and I'm trying to tell them, you've got to, they want to know the rules. And I said, it's negligence. There's one rule. We're going to spend 5 weeks on one rule. The reasonable due care under the circumstances. That's the rule. There's nothing more to it. What are we spending 5 weeks on? We're spending 5 weeks on all the different ways in which you can tell a story. And build a story about what due care is and what due care isn't, and talk to a judge and talk to a jury and think about banana peels. We spent yesterday 50 minutes on banana peels, and it was so much fun. Well, for me, I don't know. The students just got their midterms back. I think maybe it wasn't quite as much fun for them yesterday, but that's the creative side of law. And that ability to tap into that, I think is for me, really what I love. So how does I talk about, we established creativity, right? Innovation, entrepreneurship. If you ask people who's an entrepreneur, you're very quickly going to hear something about an innovator or someone who's creative or someone breaking new ground or disrupting. You hear all these words that are grounded in creativity. Tell us how that has borne fruit in your business.
Yeah, it's really exciting to think about this, to think about innovation and creativity and the law, because the law tends to be quite traditional, which is also something that we love about it. But being able to approach this very traditional field in an innovative way has kept me curious about the work. I mentioned the community office hours that we did several years ago. We were in that program for like 2 years. Every other Wednesday, we were out in the community. 30-minute meetings, people could book with us for free. And what I like about that is it cut the conversation off at the pass about, lawyers just want money from me. Entrepreneurs can't afford a lawyer. Okay. If it's not about the money, what's up? Let's have a conversation about strategy. Let's look at the law and see how can entrepreneurs use these protections at the beginning so that they don't grow their business not having had a firm foundation. And again, I learned so much during that and still have some dear friends from that experience too. After we did the workshops, after I was doing the one-on-ones, because it's a lot, it's a lot. I decided, okay, maybe not so much one-on-one, but let's do a class once a month. And around the community, we're hosting business law classes once a month. We'd hear things in those classes that I'd say, I'm seeing entrepreneurs are making this mistake around town. Let me host a class around this. Still have great clients and great friends from that. The General Counsel Concierge line, it's not launched yet. We're putting it together, but I'm really excited about what that means for our clients. And it's not going to be open to everybody. We do take, walk-ins, but we try to have a general counsel practice where we're meeting with our general counsel clients once a month, what's been up the last 30 days, what's going forward the next 30 days, and really be a member of their professional team. And I find that even that attitude around the practice is innovative. But I will say that innovation requires flexibility. I think for entrepreneurs, we talk about creativity and then I let people into my business. I hire people and they're like, why are we doing it this way? Why are we doing it that way? And I'm like, okay, just because we've always done it this way doesn't mean it's the best way. So innovation, I think, requires, making sure you're thinking about the best and most innovative ways to do things, but always having that reflection, as we've talked about, to look back at your systems and say, how can I do this better? How might I be able to better support my team so that we can grow and scale what we need to do? And so innovation, I have to remind myself, I don't think innovation is like anyone's default, maybe some people, but I think we all get into our norms. And so having maybe even 2 hours a week where you say, I'm not doing general or professional education, but let me just sit with my business for a minute to work on the business and not just in it with the active lawyering, and to think about how you can do things, build up the business side, how you can be the best in your industry and in your space, because ultimately that's what we want at Seed Law. I mean, we do it because we're listening, but we want to represent, we want to be Kansas City's business law attorney because we are entrepreneurs who represent entrepreneurs. And so I think innovation can happen in any space. You could be a group of moms who are also attorneys who create a family law practice and you just represent moms. Like there's a whole bunch of ways I think to approach the practice of law. And I think it can be fun. I'm having fun. Last summer, I wasn't having a great time, but this summer I'm having a great time.
At the law school, we've done a lot of creative things. And I think about, even just the fact that we have an entrepreneurship law emphasis as opposed to a business law emphasis is kind of unique. In the technology space, we're just having a lot of fun. We had one of our law professors had a Wikipedia hackathon where the students all came and wrote Wikipedia pages about important decisions. It was great fun, and they're affecting the law. When I think about, we have a course in law, tech, and public policy that's an interdisciplinary project-based course, and it comes up with lots of really innovative and important things. We were going to build an expungement machine in that course, a computer program that people could use to determine whether they were eligible for expungement. What we learned was it's way too complicated for a computer program. There are too many people and policy parts that can't be programmed. And so we opened an expungement clinic instead to solve the people and the policy problems. But we're still working on the machine back there for when the policy and the people problems are solved so that people can do that. I recall we have a self-help clinic that's gotten national awards. It's grounded in our law library. And let me just tell the story about how that innovation happened, because I think it gives a little bit of insight about how to be creative. It started with collaboration. So I was talking to our law librarians, and they were saying, we got a problem here at UMKC Law School. We're Kansas City's law school, and everybody who's got a legal problem comes to the law library for legal advice. And our librarians can't be giving legal advice, but we got all these members of the public coming in all the time for legal advice who are representing themselves. All we can do is give them a forum. That was the morning conversation. The afternoon conversation, I was talking with the director of the Volunteer Attorney Project at Legal Aid of Western Missouri. She was saying, we have all these senior attorneys who I'm trying to recruit to be volunteer attorneys for legal aid, but I'm just not getting any headway. They just don't want to volunteer. And I said, no, of course they don't, because they don't want to take on a case where they can't control the docket. You don't know what your schedule is going to be. And that's been their life. They're retired. They don't want to do that. They want to have a place they can go once a week for a couple of hours where they can help people in about 30 or 40 or an hour, or boom. Let's take those retired attorneys, bring them into the law library, and have them help all these pro se litigants. And thus the self-help clinic was born. And we have served over 1,000 people in just the very brief time that we've been open. We opened just before COVID. We provide brief advice and referral, limited scope representation. It's very innovative. But it wasn't like I was sitting around thinking, I got to start a new innovative clinic. It was a problem. It was a problem that needed a solution. And being open to innovations innovation doesn't come for innovation's sake. It doesn't come for creativity's sake. Necessity, is the mother of innovation, right? That's where innovation comes from. So again, this kind of goes back to the first one of vision and of knowing, and that commitment. If you spend some time going deep on problems and spend some time thinking, well, why not? Let's try this. I know what I told legal aid when they were like, well, we need to study and plan. I said, no, we'll jump and build our wings on the way down. And that's what we did. We opened it like a month after this conversation. And then COVID came and we took it all online and it's still online. And clients love it. They love to be able to talk to our attorneys from their phone. So stay focused on your vision and your values and be open to innovation. All right, our last one. I wanted to stay with the C thing, Adrienne. And so you had said think strategic, but strategic isn't a C. So I was trying to think about, okay, so what word is like strategic? So I came up with calculating, but calculating kind of has some negative inclination. No, so I'm not thinking
On the
like
positive side of it.
calculating,
Yeah.
right? This is not an evil calculating kind of thing. This is be driven by data, being planful. Tell us what you think of when I throw calculating your way.
I love that. I appreciate this. So when I think about calculating, I think about the fact that as a business owner, we've kind of talked about this, you have to think about the whole system of it, not only the business side, but also the practice of law. And so when I think about being strategic, I remind my colleagues that just because you have a license doesn't a managing partner make. Just because you graduated law school and you have a license doesn't mean you're automatically going to be like a managing partner. The lessons, even if you were a business person before, you're going to learn some lessons in this thing. But one of the things that's really exciting for us is that when you really commit to the work, then you will be surprised at what happens. One of my colleagues is here, and one of the projects that we're going to launch here soon, I know we're on video, but I'll assume our lawyers we won't share too loudly. We haven't announced yet, but one of the challenges or exciting things that we're about to do is something called the Child Care Business Improvement Project. So we're working with childcare providers, licensed childcare providers in a whole state to help them look at their business and actually provide a business coaching plan. So we get to do that to help them think about how to be good business owners, just like attorneys need to do. And the fun part is we get to support on the legal side. So when I think about being strategic, you know, having a license didn't make me a managing partner. Being a businesswoman, building the business, having the right mindset, and being willing to grow in community with our clients and with our partners is really what helps our firm to continue. And so we're 8 years in, we're looking for another 80. And so this has been fun. And so you do have to be calculating to think about not only what you want to do today, but what your long-term vision is, and then partner with those, collaborate with those who can help you do that, not only maybe in your regional area, but in a way that might be bigger than you anticipated.
That's great. You know, one of the consequences of having taught for 40 years is that when 50 minutes pass,
Yeah, I don't like that. Yeah.
there's this little
Not ideal.
internal bell that says, time's up, time's up. They're going to be packing up and leaving. You better just shut up because they're not going to listen anymore. Our time is up.
It is.
And my internal clock tells me, thank you so much. And I look forward to lots of conversations. Thank you, Adrienne.
Thank you so much.